people. Okay, this is the open discussion is the topic. This is my Wednesday workshop, right? This is a magical mindset workshop. Normally, we have a topic, right? But today, it's an open topic. And by open topic, I'm going to discuss a little bit about a few things. I reached out to some followers and I got some questions that they have on their mind, right? And so for benefit of this discussion, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to share it with you. We're going to work it out together. Comprends? Comprends. I've been studying French. Y'all didn't know that. So the first thing we're going to address is, how do you maintain confidence in the face of so much opposition, right? Now, we're talking about it specifically from a professional standpoint, right? However, there's nothing new under the sun. Anything we learn about that we can use in our careers, in our jobs, entrepreneurship, working for a company, we can absolutely use it in our life, right? And things don't happen to us, they happen for us. So when we're talking about maintaining our confidence, it can be a challenge in the face of opposition because the system is set up. There's a system, and I don't mean it in a conspiracy theory sort of way, right? There is a system set up, just like you may have a system in your home on how you do laundry. You separate the colors from the whites from the darks, right? That's just a system. Well, the way the system of operating corporations, companies in our society is set up is, it says, and really can thrive on celebrating individualism and the creativity within that. However, the system is set up that it really does not literally celebrate individualism. It wants you to conform, whether it realizes it or not. And there's all kinds of things that we can touch on. The fact that, the way we run our schooling systems, it's exactly the same. Not very much has changed. I mean, teachers used to write on a chalkboard, now they write on a whiteboard, but not much else is different, right? And the world is changing. And because of that, we really are going to a place where we need to become more confident in our individual selves. But the dang old system butts up against that, because the challenge that many of you are having when it comes to maintaining your confidence is that many of you have a measure of assuredness in who you are and what you have to offer, some measure of it. But oftentimes it crumbles a little under the weight of the expectations of other people. And so what you will find is many of you fall into the category of, I'm trying to be my best self as it can fit into this system. Okay. I'm not going to just sit here and tell you to turn a deaf ear to what's obviously around you, because the friction feels real, right? What I am going to do is I'm going to show you how to reach within you, focus on that, and what is about you, what is out and around you is going to seemingly change. Now, the truth is, it's going to be your perspective and the lens through which you're looking at that's actually going to change, but just stay with me. So you already know you have a difficult time with your boss or coworker, or there's a project that you're working on, and because of, the chain of command, the person who you really need to talk to is two levels above you, right? And you're trying to figure out, how in the hell am I supposed to get this done when they're the person that I really need to talk to, but I can't talk to them because that would be considered to be disrespectful. Here's what you're going to do. And these steps are going to help you, not in just this particular scenario, but it's going to help you maintain your confidence in the face of opposition, whether it's at the job or outside of the job, whether it's in a situation like this or something different, right? Whether you are arguing with the bus driver of the commute bus that you travel in to get to work or to get to the movies, whatever. So you're going to focus on you. The world that we live in tells us in so many words not to do that, right? It's all about everybody else, and it's not about you. There's even a really good book where the very first sentence in the book says it's not about you. That is only partially true, right? But in order for you to show up, to be who you need to be to the world around you, it most assuredly is about you. So for purposes of this example, we're going to focus on you. For purposes of increasing your confidence or maintaining your confidence in the face of opposition, you're going to need to focus on yourself. That's the main idea. Focus on you. How exactly are you going to do that? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to change how you talk to yourself. It's going to feel silly at first because yourself is going to be telling yourself, girl, you know that job is crazy. Girl, you know your boss does not care about you. Girl, you know that woman or man in the cubicle next to you is never going to change, right? But that's okay, because you're going to just keep on doing it. The simplest way to do this is for you to write out a list of I ams, right? I want you to turn a deaf ear to what other people say about manifesting, affirmations, all these things. These are all perspectives. I'm going to simplify it for you. And then you're going to take the simplified version and you're going to either do it exactly how I say it, or you're going to do it in the way that feels most comfortable to you. Okay. You're going to write down a few I am statements, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe however many you see fit. You can write them down with a pen and paper, a pencil and paper. You can write them down in a journal, or you can type them up on your phone. It's up to you. I personally typed them up on my phone. I went in, I opened up a note on my notes app. I entitled it I am, and then I proceeded to type out the I am of all of the things I wanted to either continue to keep in my life or bring back into my life. I typed out things like, I am grateful. I am strong. I am safe. That was a big one for me. I think that might even be the first on the list. I am safe. Because a lot of you do not feel secure, right? Insecurity, when the person is insecure, it means that they are not secure. It doesn't just mean they have a personality flaw and they need to grow up, right? That's not what that means. Society tells us that, but that's not what that means. The very definition of being insecure is having a lack of security, not safe. When you don't feel secure, you don't feel safe. And so foundationally, if you were to add that to your I am list, I am safe would be a good thing to put on there. I am confident. I am continuously attracting confident people to me. Okay. These are the things that you need to remember. I am actually going to record some of these and put onto my podcast for you guys to be able to look at and go to whenever you need that. Right. And however the spirit moves you, you just type or write until your heart's content. You can even add to the list, right? There's even ways for you to add music to the list so that you can listen to it. I have a alarm on my phone that goes off in the middle of the day, and I pull up my list, my I am list that I have spoken, and it's set to a little music in the background. So if I can't actually grab my phone, maybe I'm typing on my computer, if I can't grab my phone and read out the I ams, which is really the best way, at least one time a day. First thing when you wake up is great. And right before you go to bed is amazing. I just happen to do it in the middle of the day also. And I will just press play and I will hear my voice saying the I ams with a little music set in the background. I want to reiterate that in the beginning, this might not seem real to you. You might quite literally be standing outside of yourself, looking at yourself like, girl, shut up. We could be doing so many other things with our time. That's how it's supposed to feel. Because it's the old you that is talking to the new you. It's the old head trash that's talking to the new evolved you. So anything you have going on in your life and you really want to embody or become the opposite of it, put that as one of your I ams. Maybe you are afraid. You want to put, I am fearless, or you want to put, maybe you feel insecure. You want to say, I am strong, right? And you're going to say those things to yourself. And that is going to be a great start for you. What's going to happen is it's going to inspire you to look in other areas, Google some things, read some books, maybe do some journaling. That's number 2, but stay with me. It's going to inspire you to have that positive energy in you and around you. And so you'll find yourself randomly getting a text from a friend or running into someone that either gives you a good feeling about yourself or has some wisdom for you. Okay. So the first thing is the I am. The second thing is the journaling. This is nothing new. You have heard people talk about journaling. If you are in my age group, born in the late 70s, early 80s, then you very likely have had a diary, right? That's what we called them back in the day. Called them diaries. And I'm going to totally date myself by saying you could buy one and it would have a little lock on it. Not that your parents were, not that that lock was any strength against your parents or your little sister, right? Anybody who wanted to get into that damn diary would be able to. But journaling is very powerful. And I would even go so far as to say that if you ever went back or was able to go back to those diary entries of yours, that you probably have accomplished a lot of the things in that diary. And the reason is it's not magic, right? You're not necessarily taking something that's not there and magically, as in magic, the way that it's expressed to us, right? What you're really doing is you're calling out to your future self and getting feedback on what you can do now to meet up with that future you, right? All of the desires and the dreams that you have in you came in the package. It's kind of like if you went up to McDonald's and you said, I want to get a number 10. You're going to get some fries. There's going to be some nuggets and some sort of a drink in that, right? Because it's a package. So all of that came in the package when you arrived here, right? Actually, it was there before you arrived here, but you get my drift. And so when you start writing things down, I have this desire for whatever, and you write that down, but write it in a way where you can enjoy it now. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't it be awesome if you had this idea of what your dream job was, but you knew, say you had that it required that you get a degree first, or it required that you get a certification first? Wouldn't it be so freaking cool if you could enjoy that job now while you're waiting to finish that certification? You can. Journaling is a great way to do that. You're writing down what you're wanting to accomplish in the present tense, and you're telling the story from the perspective of you standing there, being there. As you're writing these things down, you're going to be thinking of these things. As you're thinking of these things, you're going to be visualizing the details of it. And you can write that down too. This is all supposed to be fun. Not just these steps I'm giving you, but life as a whole is supposed to be fun. If you're in a place where you're living life and you're not enjoying it, something needs to change. In many cases, it's the mindset that needs to change, not necessarily the location or the people around you. It's the person within you that needs to change. So the first thing you're doing, you're writing out these I ams, right? The second thing you're doing is you're journaling. Third thing, this is it. It's just 3 things. And when I finish describing them, they're really all encompassing, one together, right? The third thing is that you're going to practice this regularly. You're going to go back and read some of those journal entries. You're going to go back and you're going to tweak that I am list. Allow these 2 things to live and breathe. That's the third step. Allow this work to live and breathe and grow. And don't ever stop. Because here is an underscore. This is a bonus for this lesson. The bonus is that you get to a place in life where something that you have formed a habit of doing that has been helpful to you, your life around you looks great and you feel great. And so you start to get a little lackadaisical on the habits that you form. Like, you know what? I'm not going to do that this time. It usually happens when you find yourself somewhere else. So maybe you're on vacation. Maybe you went back to visit your hometown and you're staying at your parents' house. That can switch up some things because in you are so accustomed to being a certain way at your parents' house because that's where you were raised. That's where you were a kid. And sometimes you can fall back into your kid ways, right? Just hanging around the house, not focusing on your morning routine or evening routine. Don't let those words or those concepts scare you or make you tense up. Because sometimes it can feel like a lot. Oh, I got to have a morning routine and an evening routine. I don't like routine. I want to be flexible. More on that later. It's not as bad as they say it is. It's actually quite wonderful. A routine gives you space to be creative and free. We'll talk about that another time. So as you are doing this, you want to stick with it, is my point, because sticking with it is going to continue to allow it to grow. It is when you think everything's good and you stop doing it that one day you look up, it's been several days, several weeks, or several months, and you're like, oh my God, my head is spinning out of control. This feels so horrible. What's going on? Where am I? And then you remember, oh shoot, I stopped doing my work. I stopped doing my I ams and I stopped doing my journaling. And there's tons more stuff you can add to that. But for right now, I think those three are good. The I am list, the journaling, and remembering to allow it to live and continue to not only use it, but continue to allow it to breathe and grow and change and add to it and take from it and all that stuff. And use your own creativity to sprinkle in there. Okay. It's an amazing, amazing thought process. You don't actually have to gain confidence. You don't actually have to, quote unquote, maintain confidence in the manner in which many of us think. You're really just uncovering your confidence because it's all there. It's all there, right? It's like having all the ingredients to bake a cake inside of a sack, but for some reason it's spinning around in the back of the truck underneath other things, right? It's there. You just got to find it, right? You just got to get your hands on it so you can open it up and let those ingredients live out their purpose, which is to make that cake. So it's just like Glinda the Good Witch says, you have had it in you all this time. You just needed help from someone like me to peel back the layers and to help you get that GPS to locate where that confidence lives, because it's there. It's just got a few things on top of it that we need to peel off. Comprend? The next question we're going to move it on to. And if you have any questions about these, please feel free to message me on Instagram. That's the best way to get in touch with me for things like this. The next question we are going to answer is how to keep from falling back into people pleasing. Again, this specifically deals with your career, how you show up as you're navigating through promotions, new positions, new companies. It kind of piggybacks off of what I mentioned about finding yourself in unfamiliar places or familiar places where a familiar mindset ends up settling in. When you are somewhere and you set up a new habit of not being a people pleaser, right? You set up new habits that pull you away from that behavior. You're going, you're oiling the gears of the machine. You have a new routine. You wake up every morning and before you even roll out of bed, you pop your earbuds in and you begin your meditation process. You got your I am list that you say out loud. You even have a script that you've written that talks about your future life in the present tense, right? There is a mindset workbook that you're working through every morning. You do all these things before you even roll out of bed, right? And then once you get out of bed, you make your bed. It's the first thing you do. It's just a habit that you form. And you have been doing this new habit for months. And then you go on vacation. And now you're in a new place. Now you have to make a conscious effort to put the earbuds on the nightstand, because normally they just stay in that drawer. You pull them out in the morning and just put them back when you're done. Now you have to make a conscious effort. You have to figure out you have to figure out the mechanics and the logistics of your old routine in this new place. And it's the same with people pleasing. Many of you have gotten to a place where you have developed new habits, strengthened tools to keep you out of that cycle of people pleasing. And it's been a protective mechanism for you as well. But two things may be happening right now. One, you're moving to a new place, so you're going to have to develop new logistics to maintain the same habit. And two, much of what you have established very likely has been to protect you from the hurt and the trauma, even from the people pleaser you used to be. But oftentimes when we put in something to protect us, once we get to the place where we don't necessarily need protection from that, that very thing can keep us from our thriving level. You can put things in place to help you survive, but those survival tactics won't help you thrive. Because surviving is about survival, the bare necessity of keeping your head above water. Nobody gives a shit what the floaties look like or what your swimsuit looks like in that moment when you're trying to survive and keep from drowning, right? But when you're thriving, you get to decide, what body of water you're swimming in, right? You get to decide if you're going to be on a yacht or if you're going to be paddleboarding. It's different. It's a different feeling, right? And so that is something when it comes to people pleasing and many other things that you have to remember. You were protecting yourself from the people who were using you, manipulating you, and taking you for granted as the people pleaser that you were. And in doing so, you may be keeping yourself from your next level, okay? The other thing you want to consider when it comes to making sure that you don't fall back into people pleasing is staying focused on the goal. The goal is not for them to like you. And I don't mean that in a curt or petty sort of way. The goal is for you to come together and do what needs to be done individually for the team to thrive, right? And so that doesn't mean that you need to be liked in order to do that. It doesn't even mean that you need to be respected, because I know a lot of people will interchange those two. You don't need to like me, but you do need to respect me. Well, you really don't need to respect me, because I don't have any control over whether or not you respect me, because your level of respect for me speaks more about the filter through which you have lived your life than it has anything at all to do with me. And so what I would encourage you to do when it comes to people pleasing is focus again on self and not on, I really want to make sure they hold me in high regard. I really want to make sure they see me in a positive light, because the work speaks for itself, right? Depending on what the actual project is or the desired outcome is, it's oftentimes black and white. Now, there may be a variation of attacks on how to attack and execute is really what I mean, how to execute these things. But what's really important is that the end goal gets handled. Me. And so in doing that, removing your desire for people to like you, because really that's what people pleasing comes from. People pleasing, by and large, often comes from you growing up in a household or being exposed to a community of people or a person that made you feel, whether directly or indirectly, And in a lot of cases, that's just what you gathered as a child. It really, in many cases, it wasn't the intention of the adult. That was just what you came away with, or in some cases. And really, it's you gathering that they are not happy with me. And in order for them to be happy, I need to do what I need to do to make sure they're happy with me. Right. So as a child, that can kind of look like, oh, they had my mom was already having a rough time. And then when she saw my report card, that made it even worse. So now you become the person who's making straight A's, or you'd rather die than not. Right. And so, or you find yourself in school or in church or an extracurricular activity where the coach or the teacher made you feel, or should I say, you received the message that their life would be happier if you did this or that. And then you develop habits. You develop habits for a long time that you don't even realize are habits anymore. And you don't even realize how much time and attention you put into maintaining that habit. And so now that you're an adult, it's not uncommon that you would still have this habit from when you were 6. It is your responsibility to figure out how to make a shift there. And the best way to do that is to let go of the idea. Is that going to happen overnight? It might. Is it going to happen gradually? Likely. Is it going to feel like it happened overnight and later on down the road something else happens and you find yourself back in a position where you're like, possibly. But either way, the end goal, right? The end goal. Maybe you don't know how to make those homemade cinnamon rolls that your grandmother always made just yet, but the more you try, the better you'll be. And if you work past the fact that, girl, you ain't gonna never make these cinnamon rolls as good as your grandmother, just keep on going. Just keep on going. Because that head trash, that's not actually your voice. That's the voice of past experiences. And past experience, they don't like to go away. They like to sit and be comfortable in the place that they recognize. Okay, but you're gonna let that go. You're going to continue the process. You're going to remember Alana said, it's going to be tough and you're going to feel like a fraud, but just keep going. Just keep going. And so that's what you're going to do. You're going to keep going. You're going to keep saying, oh, wait, that's right. This has nothing to do with whether or not they like me. Let me focus on the work, because the work speaks loud, right? Real loud. Because one thing's for sure, no matter how much energy you put into making sure other people like you, it's always going to be one good somebody. And all it takes is one good somebody to say something around the right people, and they're going to have one good somebodies of a group of people that have decided that they're not going to like you. But hey, we don't give a shit, because that don't have nothing to do with the end result of this project that we're working on. Am I right? I am. You can say it. So that's another way for you to get away from falling back into that people pleasing. And the final way, for purposes of this example, to keep you from falling back into people pleasing, this big, this foundational, is to spend more time with yourself doing what you love to do. Alana, I don't even know what I love to do. You do. There's something you can think of right now that brings you joy. And you probably are going to put a butt in front of it or somewhere in the middle. Like, oh my God, Alana, I love nothing more than to binge watch old episodes of Sanford and Son. But I know that's me being lazy. And so I try not to do that. Actually, there's no such thing as lazy. There's unmotivated. There's uninspired. There is going in the wrong direction. There's a lack of resources, but there's no such thing as being lazy. It doesn't exist. It's a word that was created by a group of people to control another group of people. And that's all it is. That's the long and the short of it. And so when it comes down to that, you just have to keep that in mind. And you just have to remember that this is to focus on you and your benefit and your growth, right? Because that's where it starts. That's where it starts. You know how you were able to teach your niece your cousin, your kid how to pee in the potty? Because you learned. You know how you were able to teach the kid next door how to put icing on the cupcake properly from the container of icing from the grocery store? Because you learned. That's what we're doing. We're learning. So hopefully that resonates with you. When it comes to people pleasing, if I had to give you just only one thing to focus on, it would be spending more time with yourself and searching and realizing your value. Because when you do that, you realize you're enough. Who you show up as regularly, straight out of bed, is enough to where you don't have to put things on to please other people, right? If you are not received as pleasing by people, it has a lot more to do with them than it does with you. Okay? Okay. Now, setting healthy boundaries when starting a new career. This is really good. And I am going to pair it together with how to toot my own horn. So, the setting healthy boundaries when starting a new career is you focusing on what is going to help you thrive, right? You may not need to go to the baby shower for your coworker because you were invited, right? You may need to set the boundary that your coworkers are going to be your coworkers, at least for some time, right? At the risk of being viewed as antisocial, or, something's not quite right with them because they just seem like they just don't want to hang out with us. That's okay. It's okay for that, because see, you're doing a new thing. And so as you're setting these boundaries, you're realizing you're giving yourself time to acclimate to this new career, right? You're learning the ropes. You don't quite yet know who the person in the office is that's the problem child, right? So you can't make a decision on who you're going to hang out with outside of work without realizing who might be the one that's the toxic person that's always getting in trouble or always bad mouthing everybody in the office. So you need to spend some time getting to know who you are in that environment. That's the boundary. And if you've ever watched any of my talks on boundaries, if you've ever purchased my Mastering Boundaries mini course, it's actually on my website now. It's only $23. If you've ever consumed any of my information on boundaries, you know that boundaries are actually what you're going to do, not what they're going to do, because you don't have control over them. So when you set a boundary, the accountability of that boundary for you is, what am I going to do if this boundary doesn't get adhered to? Okay. And that's it. I really feel like it, in this purposes of this particular discussion, to go into great detail would actually be a detriment, because for the purpose of this question, which is setting healthy boundaries when starting a new career, you really want to make it as simple as possible. This is about you focusing on you. Imagine you just moved into a new neighborhood, or you just moved to a new city, or you just got a new car. You're going to give yourself time to figure out how everything works, where everything is, before you start loaning your car out or trying to tell somebody else about your car or your new place, right? And that's what you need to do. The boundary is, I'm going to put myself in this little bubble while I learn the ways of this, while I learn who I am in this new environment. And I'm going to allow that to take as long as it needs to. It might be 2 years or more before you ever go into the conference room to get donuts or to happy hour with your coworkers. Just allow it to be what feels right to you. And here's what's true. Because of old habits, old mindsets, and shifting from surviving to thriving, you might feel like, oh, you know what? I can go to one of these gatherings, one of these after work gatherings. I'll do it. And then you get there and realize, oh, this doesn't feel good. That's okay. You don't have to get it perfect every time. You just have to be willing to move your feet and get something going. Okay. Because perfection is the pursuit of perfection is actually how excellence is born. Right? Vince Lombardi has an amazing quote where he says, we will chase perfection, and we will chase perfection, not knowing full well that we will never catch it. But in the process, what we will catch is excellence. Right? Because every time you make a move, you try to be perfect. There's always something new, something better, something different, or another perspective that'll let you know, well, maybe it's not perfected quite just yet. And in that, learning who you are in this new environment, you may find that you're going to have to toot your own horn, maybe even in the interview process, maybe even in the networking process that gets you to an interview. Be open to starting a LinkedIn profile. Be open to reaching out to that uncle or that friend or that neighbor or that person who used to come into the bar that you used to work at. And asking the question, hey, you mentioned this, thus, and so. Or maybe they didn't mention anything. Maybe they've come into the bar so many times, you know a little bit about them, and you just want to let them know, look, this is what I'm doing. Do you think that you have anything to add to that? Or you might say something like, I was thinking that with your experience, you could add value to that. That's absolutely true. And it's a great phrase that you can use that's all encompassing for anybody that you approach. I use it in my approach because it's true. I don't reach out to somebody just because they're there. I reach out to them because it appears to me that they have a level of experience that would lend to what it is I'm trying to do. Currently, I am increasing the speaking engagements that I'm able to do throughout the year. I really want to spike my speaking career. And because of that, when I reach out to people and I pitch myself, that's one of the things I say. With your experience, I felt like you could add value to this. And I say things like, does that feel aligned? Because I don't want people to either feel obligated. I don't want it to come across as just another person looking for something, right? But still be, you want to be humble, but you still want to be confident, right? And so as you're saying this to these people, using things like, I felt like with your experience, you could add value to this for me. And or does that feel aligned to you? These things are a professional way to ask these questions, but it also appeals to the person. Like, does this feel aligned? And usually people will say, I don't know if I have anything to add. And that's what I want you to say. I'm not going to be in the business of trying to get you to a yes. I don't do that. I believe people know whether they realize it or not, if we're going to be able to work together going forward. So this particular one, how to toot your own horn, goes back to the confidence. Just remembering it's in you, and it's not necessarily tooting your own horn, because some people, how are they going to know unless you tell them? And you can say things like, I'm really excited about this new journey that I'm on and the experience that I've gotten by doing this, thus, and so is really exciting, or it's really telling on how well I'll do when given the opportunity. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, and you're having to toot your horn humbly, just remember you are as amazing as you need to be in order to acquire those opportunities. Just remember that it's not necessarily tooting your own horn from the derogatory form of that statement. Tooting your own horn has been looked at as, I'm going to go walk up into this room and I'm going to tell everybody how amazing I am. Well, for purposes of the example, you're trying to let people know how qualified and also how connected you are to this opportunity. You really want this. I hope that all of this has been tremendously helpful to you all. And if you have any questions on this topic or this video, I would strongly encourage you to send me a message on Instagram. I'm Alana Higginbotham on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, and I'm also on Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook as, you guessed it, Alana Higginbotham. And YouTube, obviously, right? So I hope this has been a great experience for you. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on Instagram. And if you have any suggestions, any questions on future show topics, I'm also open to that. There really is no topic in the human experience that doesn't fall under mindset and mental wealth. And when we can strategize about those things, we can certainly get out ahead of our life and create as opposed to waiting for it to just happen. So I have enjoyed this time. I certainly hope you have. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.